Hello, welcome to this MySID guide here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through, I know particularly a focus for your session today is to look at the finance. So I'm going to take you through how the finance is linked to your school development plan, which I know is on the agenda, but I thought it might be helpful very quickly just to take you through the system, just to so you can see the links between the different sections. So the first thing I'll do is hide myself away. There we go. The first thing when you log into MySID, if I get into the relevant section, when you first log into MySID in your school, you will see this screen with different sections that you can edit and amend. The self-evaluation report, so that's where you would upload or write your self-evaluation depending on whether you take either option. So what I can do here is I can go in and I can create an evaluation. Call it SER 2016 for the sake of argument. You've then got two options. You can either upload an existing self-evaluation, so you choose the file, you choose your existing self-evaluation and upload that as a Word document, PDF, however you've got it stored, or you can create one using the template that we've put together based on the ESTIN currently. So if I just take you through that process, I'm just going to create a new one in the system here now. If I was going to choose my file, just choose file, select the right file, drop that in. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to create a new one here, the SER for 2016. There we go. And what I've discovered is I've actually done that a couple of times. So I'm going to delete that. Yes, I'm sure. And what you can see is every time you upload another self-evaluation, it adds to the archive here. So if I went back to 2015, 2015, I can go back and read through my self-evaluation to see what I was saying in 2014, 2015 here, and make reference back to that. So that's self-evaluation. School development plan, which we're particularly looking at today in terms of the finance linkages. The STP section isn't the whole school development plan. This is just where we're looking at our self-evaluation and saying what are our key actions, what are the areas that we need to focus on to improve the school. So in here, priority one, for example, key question one here, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to increase provision for ICT and develop its use. And then we're going to judge its success on these success criteria. Obviously some linked to data, others linked here because it's ICT to integrating that across the school. And when you get into this section, you select the year of the 3-year plan that it goes into, because remember it's a statutory guidance that it's a 3-year plan for Welsh Government, 2015, 16, 17, 16, 17, 17, 18 in this case for the current academic year. What you would do very simply, if we go in and edit, is you can apply a priority level to each of the activities. So for the sake of argument, if for key question one, the provision of ICT wasn't something I wanted to focus on in the first year, but something I was looking to do perhaps in the second year, I'd give it a medium priority level. Okay, probably take the status down to red for this one actually, because I've not done anything to develop it yet. And then what I'll do is I will click on done at the top of the screen. You can see now it's been downgraded there to a medium level priority. So if I go to the high level priorities, 2015-16 ones, it no longer appears on the list, but it should appear when I click on 2016-17. It does, because that's the second year of the plan. So basically, by setting your targets and setting your priority level, you allocate different activities to the different years. Moving on from the school development plan where you're setting your targets into the budget profiler. So in terms of finance, this is, I guess, the key starting point. The EIG, the PDG, so the Education Improvement Grant, the Pupil Deprivation Grant, the EY PDG, which we put in as a separate entry this year, will appear pre-populated in the system for you. We do that work when we get acknowledgement of those figures. They go into the system here, and they are shown with a padlock. You can't delete those, even if you try, because that functionality doesn't exist. But what you can do is add additional funding sources and delete them. Okay, so let's say for the sake of argument, I've got two. I want to add an additional funding source here. I click on add additional funding source. I will say something here. I'm just going to make this one up. Okay, and I will say that I've had a windfall of £10,000 for a wealthy parent. Okay, when I click add, what you should notice is that the total increases up to, I think it should be 115,000 now. There we are. Okay, so this isn't obviously the money it's not real money in terms of being linked to the finance systems, but it is the money that you're planning to spend to support those school improvement priorities. So in a sense, what we're now going to do, once we've set our budget, it's important you do set your budgets there, because what happens then is when you go to your activity plan, you are allocating your activities against these budget headings. Okay, so if I scroll down now and I move into the school activity plan section, this is kind of the other half, if you like, of the school development plan. We split it across the sections, but you can then download it at the end as a whole report, which would take the form of your SDP. So here we are. We can see now that what we're doing is we're adding activities. So UID 1 here, key question 1, increase provision for ICT. When you want to add an activity, very simply, you go in and you add an activity. You link to the priority against which that activity is going to support. So for example, if it was something like, let's have a look. Let's further develop the profile and refine the role of the governing body in school improvement. You would then go in and write a description of the activity that you're going to take. So all governors will be linked to phase lead. Okay, so there's an example, okay, of an activity that you might want to schedule here. Give a start date for the activity and a finish date. So the finish date would be the date where you then say, I'm going to evaluate the activity now and see how successful it was. Who's going to monitor it? So it's going to be the head teacher in this case. The unit cost, in this case, it's not actually going to cost me anything necessarily. It could do. It might be that I want to release staff and I'm going to have to find some money to do that to work alongside the governing body. But in this case, it's not going to cost. And then as you scroll down the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that each of the funding sources that you created in the budget profiler now appears on the screen. And what you would then do is select against each where you're going to actually assign the budget, okay, for those activities. So in this case, there isn't a cost, so I click on the there isn't a cost for this activity button, and then you click on save. Okay, when you click on save, I'm going to click cancel this time because I don't want to put this into our example, but it will then appear on the screen here, and provided that you have allocated a budget heading for your activity, it will all pull through and into the financial monitoring section of the system. Another sort of feature that we should pick up here on the right hand side is that as you allocate the budgets to activities, the budget headings on the right hand side will capture this information. So for example here, PDG shows that I have a current budget available of 29,000, but I've actually allocated 30,000, so I've had a £1 grand overspend there. And eventually, when you've allocated all the money to various activities on your plan, the balance will go down to zero. You'll also notice that on the left hand side here, you've got a unique identifier for the activity. That's to make it easier to find the activities when you're in the financial monitoring section of the system. So the link then is created by making sure that you assign each activity in here to a particular funding source. And as you can see down here, each of these activities is allocated. So you've got school budget for the top one here, and no cost for the second one, school budget, so on, EIG, okay. And what the system will do is, as you add activities, it will order them so that everything that you've picked for your first priority, so here it's key question 1, they will appear first, and then key question 2, and so on. So there'll be a logical sequence to the way that it's displayed on the screen. Okay, let's move into the financial monitoring part of the system now. When you get into the financial monitoring, as you can see here, I've created quite a lot of funding streams to fund activities. But what will happen is the funding streams will appear on the left-hand side here. The total allocation from those budgets will appear in the bold on the left-hand side. What you've planned to spend here will appear in the left. So this is what you've said you're going to spend in the school activity plan in the previous section. The unplanned spend, so what you've not yet planned in terms of the activities in the activity plan, will appear as the unplanned spend. As you start to add information down here in terms of capturing the various different activities and the invoices and the way in which the money is being spent, the actual expenditure will appear in here in the first column, so that's what you've actually spent. The committed, which is what's left over from that particular allocation within that particular activity, will appear here, and then any grant remaining will appear on the right hand side here. So if we go into a particular activity, we can see how this will work. So here unique identifier is given, so we know where that's coming from. I suppose something else to point out as well before we start is if we wanted to deal with this one line at a time in terms of the different grants funding streams, if we uncheck the boxes and then just check the box that we want to look at. So let's look first of all at PDG. So if I select the PDG button there, then only the PDG grants will appear on the screen, or the activities that I'm paying for with the PDG will appear. Firstly, unique ID, then a particular activity, so review best practice, that hasn't got the cost associated with it. No, it has. It's got a PDG cost associated with it because we're going to look at some strategies to improve teaching. So what we then do is we go into the system here and we click on the little pencil, okay, and then we can add in the invoice numbers in this box. If that relates to a financial code or a pay number, it would go into these two boxes here. The type of expenditure, okay, so and the list is given there, the list that we need in terms of compliance with the grant is provided on the drop down menu here, and then the amount that we're actually spending is shown in this box in here. Now there's an important box which is currently causing a bit of confusion, and it's this box here, which is the committed box. After you've spent the money here on this particular activity, the committed box needs to display the money that's left for this particular activity. It shouldn't be the total, because otherwise what we end up doing is double accounting and it looks like you've got a hugely negative budget. Or the alternative is, if you leave the committed at 0, then as you allocate the spending to the different activities, the figures will eventually balance at the top of the screen. So for this activity, we've said that the planned cost, actually I'll go down to the next one because it's going to make more sense. The planned cost is £2,500. If I've just had an invoice in, I'll put the number in here, okay, and this was for Resources ICT. The amount that I've currently spent is £2,000. What I said I'm going to allocate is £2,500. So what's committed but I've not yet spent is £500. Okay. When I click on done, we can see that then is displayed. That's what I've spent. That's what I've committed but not yet spent. When I've spent that £500 on the rest of that activity and I've accounted for it, the committed now becomes 0 because we've actually spent all the money that's in that particular pot. I hope that was clear. The reason why I didn't go through this one obviously is because it doesn't look like we committed any money to the activity in the first instance. Okay, so that's how you would add the invoices through there. And then if you want to pull down a financial services report at the end, if you click on the link here, this will pull down a Excel spreadsheet which will then give the overall summary of the expenditure expressed as a spreadsheet for the different activities. So I hope that was useful. I hope that's given you some insight into the workings of MySID in terms of the financial monitoring. If you've got any questions, please drop me